Every human civilization runs on an invisible currency, the assumption that basic rules will be followed. We trust treaties will be honored, duties will be upheld, and friends will protect our interests. When leaders amass enough power, they often confuse these fragile agreements with physical armor. They assume they are safe simply because the law, or their status, says they are. But that creates a massive blind spot. The moment an adversary decides to step outside those unspoken rules, all that supposed protection evaporates. If we look closely at some of history's most devastating collapses, they were not the result of unstoppable superior armies. They were the result of internal betrayals of foundational trust. The deepest vulnerability comes from the people standing closest to you. Personal affection is a weapon when someone is willing to use it. By March of 44 BC, Julius Caesar was at the absolute peak of his authority in Rome. After winning a brutal civil war, he had actively mentored and pardoned his former rival, Marcus Brutus. Caesar assumed that clemency bought loyalty. He was wrong. As Caesar took his seat in the Senate, surrounded by men he considered allies, 23 senators pulled concealed daggers and stabbed him to death. His inner circle completely ignored his official power. 2 millennia later, another leader made a similarly lethal assumption. Ernst Röhm was Adolf Hitler's closest friend. Röhm built the SA, a paramilitary force of over 3 million men that violently muscled Hitler into power. But Röhm wanted to merge his troops with the regular German military. The traditional leadership viewed the SA as an undisciplined mob. They gave Hitler a quiet ultimatum: choose the regular army or choose Röhm. On June 30th, 1934, SS troops burst into Röhm's hotel room and arrested him. Over the next 3 days, dozens of SA leaders were pulled from their beds and systematically executed. When 2 officers finally entered Röhm's cell and shot him, his last words were calling out for Hitler, completely confused by his friend's orders. Friendship creates a dangerous cognitive bias. It masks the reality that political allies will often choose pragmatic survival over personal loyalty. Beyond personal relationships, societies rely on the established laws of diplomacy. When an opponent weaponizes a peace treaty, the resulting violence is absolute. In 1532, Francisco Pizarro invited the Inca ruler Atahualpa to a diplomatic meeting in the town of Cajamarca. Trusting the universal rule that ambassadors do not bring weapons to peace talks, Atahualpa arrived with thousands of unarmed attendants in ceremonial dress. Pizarro's men were waiting inside the surrounding buildings with cannons and steel weapons. In 2 hours, the Spanish slaughtered approximately 2,000 unarmed Inca and captured Atahualpa. To buy his life, the imprisoned ruler offered an incredible ransom, filling a massive room with gold and twice over with silver. Over several months, Inca workers stripped their temples to meet the demand, delivering around $50 million worth of precious metals in today's money. Atahualpa fulfilled his end of the bargain completely. Pizarro took the gold and had him strangled in the town square anyway. This exploitation of agreements also takes the shape of institutional mercy. During the siege of Masada in 73 AD, 1,000 Jewish rebels were trapped on a desert plateau. The Roman commanders surrounding them repeatedly offered a clear deal: lay down your weapons and your lives will be spared. But the defenders had watched those same Roman forces destroy Jerusalem and enslave tens of thousands of prisoners. They knew that submitting to Roman mercy guaranteed an existence of subjugation and slavery. Facing that reality, 960 people inside the fortress chose to take their own lives. Words on paper mean absolutely nothing if the entity holding the pen has a track record of brutality. A powerful authority's promise of mercy is only as reliable as the system enforcing it. Sometimes a betrayal of trust is entirely unintentional. A massive, fortified system can collapse instantly if just one person abandons their professional duty. By 1453, the Byzantine Empire was essentially reduced to the walls of Constantinople. A tiny garrison of around 7,000 men was defending the city against an Ottoman army of 80,000, successfully repairing the walls and repelling bombardments for nearly 2 months. The defense heavily relied on a highly skilled mercenary commander named Giovanni Giustiniani, who was holding the single most vulnerable section of the perimeter against intense assaults. During the final Ottoman assault on May 29th, Giustiniani was hit. While the wound wasn't necessarily fatal, he panicked. Ignoring the emperor's pleas to stay at his post, Giustiniani demanded that an inner gate be unlocked so he could retreat for medical treatment. The exact moment that the inner gate opened, his mercenary troops clearly saw their commanding officer fleeing to the rear. Assuming the battle was lost, they poured through the exit right behind him. The Ottomans saw the sudden gap in the defense, breached the walls, and the impregnable city fell within hours. The entire defense relied on collective discipline. One commander making a deeply human, terrified decision erased a 1,000-year empire in a single afternoon. There is a recurring historical irony to all of these actions. The people breaking the rules rarely secure the clean victory they envision. The 23 senators who murdered Julius Caesar plunged Rome into over a decade of devastating civil war. By the end of it, Caesar's adopted heir Augustus emerged as the sole ruler. The assassins accidentally guaranteed the exact dictatorship they killed Caesar to prevent. Francisco Pizarro was eventually stabbed to death by supporters of a rival conquistador in his own Hellas, and Ernst Röhm spent years building the exact totalitarian machine that authorized his murder in a hotel cell. Every society is built on the assumption that agreements, professional duties, and friendships will be honored. But trusting that those concepts are absolute leaves you completely exposed to anyone willing to disregard them. An enemy standing across a battlefield can only defeat you. The only people with enough access to truly destroy you are the ones standing closest to you.